Welcome to the Historic Marker Committee meeting for the Forsyth County Historic Resources Commission. We're going to call the meeting to order now that it is 5 o'clock. If each of the committee members could announce your name for the record, I would appreciate that.
Janet Schill.
Alana Meltzer-Holderfield.
Leanne Pegram.
Janet, do it one more time.
Janet Schill.
Awesome.
Okay, our first order of business is to elect a committee chair. The committee chair must be a member of the committee who is also a member of the Historic Resources Commission. We've had 2 members express an interest in being the committee chair. So I don't know if there's anyone who would like to self-nominate.
Heather, I don't want to self-nominate, but I do want to nominate Alana Meltzer-Holderfield.
Okay. Alana, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for committee chair? All right. Hearing no other nominations, could someone make a motion, please?
I make a motion that we accept Alana Meltzer-Holderfield as our new committee chair.
Second.
Okay. Can we do a roll call vote?
Janet Schill, aye.
Khaki?
Unmute.
Aye.
Okay.
Leanne?
Aye.
And Alana?
Hi.
All right. Congratulations, Alana.
Thank
You
you.
are the new chair, and I will turn the meeting over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. So first order of business I have then is to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from this committee in November 2019.
I move that the minutes be approved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. And then I believe I need to turn it back over to staff to give information about what we'll be doing. Is that right, Heather?
First, we need to do a roll call vote like what we just did. So if you can announce each person's name and have them vote.
On the minutes?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I get the names of the people who made the motion and did the second?
Just announce everybody's name so everybody can vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go in the order that I see you guys to get the roll call vote. Leanne?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Khaki?
Aye.
And that's all right?
And then yourself.
Oh, and I vote aye.
Okay. All right. Yes. Now you can turn it back to me.
Okay, please.
The Historic Marker Program was approved by the City of Winston-Salem in 2001 under the tenure of Ms. Leanne Pegram, who is a member of our committee now. The first markers in Winston-Salem were installed in 2002, and the first marker was installed in Forsyth County in 2013. And to date, we've installed 60 markers throughout the county, 7 in unincorporated parts of Forsyth County, 52 in the city of Winston-Salem, and 1 in Clemens, which is kind of a special case, and we have another one of those tonight. So this map shows where the 60 markers are installed and where the proposals for the applications we're going to hear tonight are located. The purple stars that are numbered are the locations for the proposed markers, and the yellow circles are the locations for the markers that have been installed already. 2 markers in the city of Winston-Salem and 1 marker in an unincorporated part of Forsyth County may be funded during 2021. The committee will make recommendations for funding at the Historic Resources Commission meeting this Wednesday, December 2nd. Once the marker awards have been made, staff drafts the marker inscriptions based on the information that was in your application. Committee members will review and edit the marker inscriptions, and then staff orders the markers and determines the exact marker placement with the other city teams because we have to account for things like buried utility lines and so on. So sometimes the markers have to be moved around a little bit from what might be their ideal location. Tonight, the committee will be scoring the applications based on 12 criteria separated into 3 priority groups. Our highest priority groups are awarded, or items are awarded the most points, 5 points maximum. That goes to a lesser known site, event, organization, or person, a site connected to underrepresented history, such as African American history or LGBTQ history, a building of historical or cultural significance that has been demolished, a historic or cultural event that occurred at a specific site. Our priority 2 or our middle priority criterion can each be awarded 3 points. That's for an endangered or threatened site, an existing building of historical or cultural significance, a historic landscape, or a person or organization of historic or cultural significance. And then our lowest priority criteria, each may be awarded 1 point. So a marker that would be in a location without other markers nearby. The marker helps to create or identify a sense of place. The marker identifies a property or area prioritized for preservation or that's already been preserved, or the application has scored in the top 5 for the last 2 consecutive years. We do not have any applications tonight that fall into that category, so that last criterion is not relevant this evening. Thank you for bearing with us tonight. This is the first time that we are conducting a virtual meeting as staff. So thanks for your patience and coming in early so we could make sure everything was working. So what is going to happen is I will introduce each application, then you will be unmuted and have a chance to make your presentation. And then at the end of your presentation, the committee members will ask questions if they have any. As the presentations are made tonight, members of the committee will be scoring each application based on the criteria that we just went over, and then they will be sending me their scores, and those will be tabulated by staff and checked tomorrow. If a majority of the committee finds that the application for the marker in the county and in Clemens meet the required criteria, then they will recommend to the full commission that those markers be awarded. In the city of Winston-Salem, since we have more applications than we can award markers to, the 2 highest scoring applications will be recommended to the commission for marker funding next year. So we will email the committee and the applicants with the final scores tomorrow. So you will have that information tomorrow. So as I said in my email, since we're not going to be announcing scoring at the end of the meeting tonight, you're certainly welcome to stay on to hear all the other presentations. But if you need to hop off, there's no reason to stay on till the end of the meeting. So we only have 1 application for a county-funded marker, which is Stroble Stonehouse Farm. The applicant is Zach Hall. The property is located along Skylark Road, just outside of Pofftown, where the purple star is located on the map. And Brian, if you could unmute Zach, we will let him go ahead and discuss the application and present to the committee.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Whoops,
Okay.
Sorry. There we go.
So this is our family farm that we've been at for around 20 years now, and it's where my brother and I have grew up, and my parents have raised us with all the animals and everything too. But we just really fell in love with the way that the history of it and the family that built it and owned it all the way up until we were lucky enough to move in. And so, yeah, we're only the 2nd family that's ever lived there since it was built in 37. But it was constructed from the stone around the property of around 10 acres or so, and they pulled all the stone up that's lying on the surface or just below it. This is my mom.
The sons would go out in the morning and collect the stones from the ground, and then they would lay the stone to build the house in the afternoon.
Committee members, do you all have questions maybe that you might like to ask?
I've got a question, not so much for Zach, but perhaps for staff, is this property included, do we know, in Heather Fernbach's update of the county architectural survey?
She is aware of it and has found the older section, the original section of the house, to be very interesting, but it has not been included in the survey because there is a modern addition.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Could the applicant give us a little more history of the property and the family, just so
Yeah.
that the committee can know that?
Absolutely. So Ms. Stroble, she fostered over 100 kids during her time. Many of them had special needs. That was her passion. That was what she was known for. And Mr. Stroble was awarded the title of Mayor of Pofftown.
Unofficial title.
Yeah, unofficially. That was in the Winston-Salem Journal. And I mean, they had cows, horses, pigs, turkeys, chickens, all kinds of things.
And Mrs. Stroble, who fostered the children, she was living in this house during the time period when that fostering occurred, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We've found many bracings and such around the property.
Leg brace.
Well, yeah, leg braces and such that the kids used to have.
Interesting.
And
She went to Reynolda House, which was built not that soon before this house was built in 1937, for her inspiration of how to do the grounds, and she was big in the garden club, but they liked being self-sustained, where they grew their own vegetables, and they really enjoy. And she was born in the house just around the corner, down the street on Kilmurray Hill Road. So, and one of her sons, until he died, lived 2 doors down. The other one lived on the other side, 2 doors down. But just the fact that, they gathered the stone from the property, and, we've done the same thing as far as the boys. They grew vegetables, our boys grew vegetables and sold them at the farmer's market. When they were growing up, they would have a vegetable stand at the end of the driveway. It really, the house and the property just makes you want to live like that.
And we've also taken a log barn and a tobacco barn that were set to be demolished around the area. My dad has taken them down, that were in Louisville, and where was the other one? Vienna, and brought them back, and we rebuilt them in the same way that they were originally constructed, back on the property, to preserve them and keep them alive.
The house still has the original barn back in the woods that my husband took and rebuilt, and has the original chicken coop, which we still have chickens in.
And Mr. Stroble passed away not long after the house was built, correct?
He did. His sons all went off to war, and it was explained to me that just the tension of all that, his sons being away at the war, really wore on him. I think that's why the boys all stayed right there. One of the sons never left the house. I mean, he didn't literally never leave the house, but it
lived at home.
Yeah, it was still his home until he passed away, and he was in his 80s, and that's when we purchased the house.
Okay.
Mrs. Hall, can you say your name so we have it for the record?
Say your name, Mr. Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Zachary Hall.
And the woman who's speaking.
Your mom's name.
Donna Coram. Coram, Coram.
Thank you.
Committee members, do you all have any other questions for the halls? All right. I'm going to take that as a no. Is there anything else that you all would like to share with us before we move on to the next application?
I think this would be a great way to show and to bring, knowledge about the home and the family that lived there to the community. And something so nice and simple to explain the importance of it to the Poptown community.
And this house is in a 1 mile stretch that wasn't either annexed by Louisville, which is Louisville city limits is half mile down the road, or Winston-Salem, which is a half a mile up the other end of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can see it on the map.
Yeah.
This area is a throwback. I mean, this is where people farm and have animals and want to preserve a simpler life that existed in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And I think this house, being that they built it, they gathered the stone from the property, we've had to take down a piece of the back wall, and us as a family, 2 sons and my husband and I, we rebuilt the stone with the same stones we took off.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anything to throw away.
And we're putting the original stones also on the new addition part that we've tried to keep as original looking, to match the original home, just so it looks the same. And we're putting the same stones back there.
And we don't run out, because if we do, we just go out in the woods and find more.
Understood. All right. Thank you all very much. As I said, you are welcome to stay on the call if you'd like, but it's certainly not necessary. And we will move to our applications for city-funded markers.
Do we need to give everybody a minute to score?
Yes. So, yes, thank you, Alana. Committee members, if you could let us know when you're done scoring so we can start the next presentation, that would be great.
Maybe use the hand wavy thing, maybe?
All I can see on my screen is the presentation. So if somebody can give me an audio signal.
Okay.
I'm going to wait and do mine all at the conclusion.
Okay.
I'm done.
Me too. Kaki, are you still scoring?
No, I'm done.
Okay, great.
All right. All right, then our first application in the city of Winston-Salem is for historic Oak Crest. From Kent Strupe, he'll be presenting, and Tom Phillips, who I know is on the call, to offer him support as needed. And the property is located along Polo Road near Wake Forest University, where you can see a 2 on the map. And gentlemen, if you want to unmute Kent, Brian, we are ready to go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Kent Strupe. I am the president of Historic Oak Crest. I'm also the historian of the University Area Neighborhood Association. Next slide. Oak Crest was established in June 1923 by Moravian brothers. I can't see JW, HE, and whatever the other person is. I can't see it under. And Freeze. And they platted out 27 beautiful tracts of land. Next slide. Okay, then an ad ran in the Winston-Salem Journal of 1923 advertising the new neighborhood. It was a full-page ad. Next. Then we have a 1927 aerial view of Oak Crest. Next. So Oak Crest is located just 150-acre tract of land is situated on a ridge. It is covered with a large stand of oak trees that still predominate the area. We have 184 homes that are varying house styles. Our most significant growth period was between the 1930s and the 1950s. Oak Crest has retained much of its original charm and character, which makes it a unique neighborhood. And most of the Oak Crest residents are working middle-class people. And many of the original families still reside in Oak Crest with second and third generations still in the neighborhood. We were added to the National Register of Historic Places in December 2016. Next. This shows a timeline of when the streets were added in Oak Crest. Next. And we'll begin with Oak Crest Drive, which is now Polo Road and Friendship Circle. Next. Then we had Rosedale Circle. Next. And then Rosedale was replatted a couple of years later. Next. Then Fred's Road. Next. Then Harmon Avenue. Next. Idlewild Drive. Next. And the final edition was called Nading's Edition, and it was added by brothers J.A. and H.A. Nading, and that was called Crepe Myrtle Circle. Next. So here's a current map of Oak Crest, and I have outlined the original 27 parcels and Nading's Edition. Next. So this shows a timeline of the homes that were built. So you can see that our biggest growth period occurred between the 1930s and 1950s. Next. And then just to look at some of the homes in the area, we'll start with Oak Crest Drive, now Polo Road. Next. Next. Some notable people that lived in the area: Brian Piccolo, who attended Wake Forest and was a professional football player for the Chicago Bears, and Ruth Penry. She was grandmother to George Hamilton IV, the country music singer. They lived in the neighborhood. Next. The only business that's located in Oak Crest started out as Hauser's Country Store in the 1940s, and then that building was replaced in the mid-60s with this building, which was a Phillips 66 station, and now it is Campus Gas, which is a craft beer and food establishment. Next. Next. Then moving to Friendship Circle, we have the oldest house on Friendship Circle, and that was the Smothers house. They were an aunt and uncle to the famous Smothers brothers. Next. 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 The house on the right was the Oak Crest Florist was operated out of the basement of the house on the right. Next. Gladys Dunnigan ran the Winston-Salem Beauty Salon from the basement of this home. Next. Moving on to Rosedale Circle. This is the oldest house on Rosedale Circle, and it was originally a log house, but it's been covered up with weatherboard siding. Next. Next. Margaret Hunt ran a kindergarten in the attic of this house, and you can see her class of 1962, 63, and the three people that are circled still live in Oak Crest today. Next. We have the Howard Cartwright House. He was the vice president of maintenance for Piedmont Airlines. Next. College Park Baptist Church was started in the backyard of this house in 1948. Next. Next. This is Fred's Road. This is the Kester Nesbitt property, and Kester was the owner of Kester Machinery, Carolina Nera Fabrics, and insulating yarn companies. Next. The oldest house on Harmon Avenue was the Logan House, and they operated Logan Heating and Air. Next. Then the Walter Cartwright House. He was the father to Howard Cartwright. He was also the caretaker of Sunny Knoll Farm. And then Hugh Davis was the owner of Crystal Lake. Next. E.K. McNew was the longtime principal of Old Town School. He and his daughter lived here. Next. The oldest house on Idlewild Drive. Next. Next. The D. Park Stimpson House. D. Park Stimpson was an engineer. He invented the heat pump, and he made many modifications to this house during his time living here. Next. And the house you see pictured there, oops.
Sorry, let me go back.
So the house that's pictured there is probably what this house looked like before all of the modifications. Next. These are the homes of the Frank A. Stith Jr. and Sr. They ran the clothing store in town for many years. Next. And then we have the Kivett House and Florist. Next. 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 Then we have the oldest house on Crepe Myrtle Circle. Next. Oops.
Sorry. Okay, here we go.
Okay, the oldest house, and then this was the home of Mary Nading McGehee. She was the daughter of H.A. Nading, who contributed this property for Crepe Myrtle Circle. And Mary named the street Crepe Myrtle Circle because they planted a crepe myrtle tree on every lot when they cut the road. Next. This house was demolished. It was a little mini farm. It was on Crepe Myrtle Circle. Next. The Nicholas Bragg House. He was the first director of the Reynolda House Museum, and he's also an accomplished artist here in town, and he still lives there. Next. The Martha and Gustav Sather House. The couple built this house themselves. Next. And Ruby Spicula was beauty operator at the Baptist Hospital for many years, and then she ran a beauty shop in the basement of this home. Next. So for many years, Oak Crest was not recognized by its name. Most people just referred to it as the Wake Forest neighborhood or the neighborhood next door to Wake Forest. And so I wanted to get our name of Oak Crest back, which I did. And then we got the historic designation in 2016. So many people go down Polo Road and they just don't know where they're driving through. They don't recognize the neighborhood as Oak Crest. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get street sign toppers and some nice signs, you know, like neighborhood signs. And then also, I think a historic marker would show the significance of this neighborhood to the community. And lastly, in 2023, Oak Crest will be celebrating its centennial year. Next. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Committee members, do you all have any questions for Kent?
No, that was a very good presentation. For me.
Thank you.
It's thorough, very thorough.
Yes, extremely thorough. Kent, you've done an amazing amount of research.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
All right, then if y'all want to, yeah, let us know when you're done with your scoring and we'll move to our next application.
I'm done.
And thank you, Kent and Tom. Brian, if you want to go ahead and unmute Faye Hauser Price, she will be our next presenter.
I'm done as well.
Yeah, done.
All right, then we should be ready to go. All right, our next application is for Dr. Charlie Brady Hauser, activist, educator, and legislator, and the applicant is Faye Hauser Price. The marker site that is indicated on the map here is at the Hauser family home, and then that's a picture of Dr. Brady Hauser from 1967, and I will turn it over to Faye.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this online so that I could be a part of it since I am in Los Angeles, California.
We are so glad.
Change slides. Dr. Charlie Brady Hauser did not come to Winston-Salem from privilege. He came from Yadkinville, North Carolina, the third of 13 children of the late Reverend Daniel Montgomery and Charlie Victoria Hauser. It is now understood that both his parents and therefore he were descendants of Theophilus Hauser, co-founder of Yadkinville, North Carolina, and relative of the Kate Bidding Reynolds family. The marker would commemorate the achievements of an able and industrious man of color and his fight for inclusion in an American dream from which he and his class were systematically disenfranchised. Change. Dr. Charlie Brady Hauser came to Winston-Salem as a young student at Winston-Salem Teachers College in 1936, and after graduating, he married his sweetheart, Lois Brown of Winston-Salem, and he taught school at 14th Street School. Except for a few years in South Carolina, Hendersonville, North Carolina, and the European War Theater, he remained an active member of the Winston-Salem community until his death in 2007. Change. When World War II broke out, Charlie Hauser became a member of the 582nd Ordnance Company. He and his unit earned citations from participating in the 5 great battles of Western Europe, and his quest for equality led him to challenge the segregated army and seek appointment as a warrant officer, passing the exam twice, but being denied the appointment because his superior said that he would not let in his army. Change. With a Good Conduct Medal on his release, Charlie Hauser tested the interstate Jim Crow laws in 1947 on his way from Winston-Salem to teach at West Virginia State College, formally challenging segregation 9 years before Rosa Parks and 13 years before the sit-ins were started in Greensboro, North Carolina. He was included in the documentary, the PBS documentary, You Don't Have to Ride Jim Crow. Change. He earned his doctorate of education at the University of Pennsylvania and taught at Winston-Salem State University. He enthusiastically participated in social, political, arts, education, mental health, volunteer segments of Winston-Salem's organizations. Change. Dr. Hauser was a professor at Winston-Salem State from 1956 to 77, where he was chairman of the Department of Education and director of teacher education. Living in the Boston area of Winston-Salem as white flight afforded Blacks the opportunity to acquire those properties. Change, please. While at Winston-Salem State U, he was Assistant Secretary Treasurer of the CIAA, where he developed the Conference 1.6 rule prediction table in 1969 that assisted schools in admitting collegiate athletes into its ranks. Dr. Hauser was a life member of the National Education Association. Change. He successfully ran and won 2 terms in the North Carolina State Legislature, serving Winston-Salem citizenry during the 1983-84 and 1985-86 terms. He participated actively in all local elections, personally taking people to the polls to vote. He served as judge and registrant at Paisley Precinct and Haynes Community Center Precinct, where he ran the elections. Change, please. Dr. Hauser was on the Forsyth Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, where he was named volunteer extraordinary. He was on the Arts Council, was a trustee for the Forsyth Tech Community College, the Dixie Classic Fair Committee, chairman of the board Northwestern Region ALANC, board chair Patterson Avenue YMCA, board member Mental Health Association of Forsyth County, active with the American Heart Association, the Community Corrections Resources, Inc., and the Inter-Municipal Co-op Committee. Dr. Hauser was also on the Tanglewood Beautification Council, an institution until the late 60s or maybe early 70s, did not allow people of African descent to participate in its activities. Change. Dr. Charlie Hauser was named Professor Emeritus to Winston-Salem State U, was given an honorary doctor's degree of human letters, and named to the Board of Visitors and inducted into the Hall of Fame. Change. He also had time for hobbies that he just loved: boating and camping and gardening and photography and beekeeping. Change. As a boater, he and his wife, Lois Hauser, became members of the United States Power Squadron and helped to chart the North Carolina intercoastal waterways, receiving a Merit Mark Award in 1977. Change. He found time also to mentor students, both young and old. Change. Hosting 2 foreign students from Africa and Korea who went to Wake Forest University. Change. Dr. Charlie Brady Hauser was a spiritual person who was assistant superintendent of Sunday school and a trustee at Mount Zion Baptist Church, and NAACP Life Membership Chair and Treasurer of the Hauser Williams Russell Family Reunion that celebrated 100 years of reunions in 2015. He also helped organize the neighborhood of K Court Community Club, which was dedicated to maintaining the highest quality of living for its members. A dedicated war veteran, he died on Veterans Day at age 90. He was married to educator Lois Hauser for 65 years and had 2 children, me, Faye Hauser Price, actor director, and my sister, Lord Lieutenant of Bristol, England, Peaches Golding. Thank you for accepting this presentation.
Committee members, do you all have any questions for Ms. Hauser Price?
Wow, just what an incredible man.
He was busy.
Yeah, it's amazing. He had a lot of energy for sure. No, it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Yes,
it was
thank you for that.
very interesting. Phenomenal man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that we were able to do this virtually, so I got to hear the presentation. this year.
Yes.
All right, committee, if y'all will let me know when you're done scoring and we're ready to move on to the next one. Brian, if you want to unmute Robin and Harvey, they will be our next presenters.
I am done.
I'm finished.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. Our next application for a Winston-Salem marker is for the Ephesus Junior Academy. And our presenters tonight will be Robin Davis and her colleague Harvey, who are members of the Alumni Committee. The marker would be located where you see the number 4, which is where the school is currently located on North Liberty Street.
Cleveland Avenue.
I'm sorry, Cleveland Avenue.
That's okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to do this presentation. I am Robin Davis, and I represent Ephesus Junior Academy, along with my colleague, Harvey Staplefoot, who is the Alumni Association president. In 1957, Elder Walter and Mrs. Florence Darby realized the need to educate the head, hands, and hearts of students in grades 1 through 8. Elder Darby was our pastor, and Sister Florence Darby was wife, Elder Walter.
I'm so sorry. It started your audio. Let me go back to your previous slide. I'm sorry. Please proceed.
That's okay. Okay. Mrs. Alice Brantley was the first principal teacher, and Miss Carol Hammonds was our first teacher. Next slide. Who are we? We are a Seventh-day Adventist Christian school located at 1225 North Cleveland Avenue. Our school is part of the worldwide Seventh-day Adventist School Network, and we are also the recipient of the 2020 Distinguished School Award. Next slide, please. What do we do? Since 1957, parents from our community have been choosing Ephesus Junior Academy to provide a foundation of education that sets their children on a path to true success and productivity. Next slide, please. Where are we located? We are located at 1225 North Cleveland Avenue. Our first school was located at 240 North Dunleavy Avenue. Our second location was at 16th and Ivy, and 16th and Ivy is now where Smith Phillips owns the property. We are now, and as I said before, we're located now at 1225 North Cleveland Avenue on the same lot as the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Next slide. These are pictures of our first, second, and current location. Next slide. The reason why we would like to have a historical marker is that we have been a part of this community for over 60 years, educating boys and girls from all walks of life. And we want to honor our founding fathers, as well as the students that have been taught at Ephesus Junior Academy. Next slide. Students from our community have been taught about the love of Jesus as well as core curriculum. Ephesus Junior Academy has been led to service and assisting a senior person from the church community with identified needs. Students have been involved in the school growth with community activities. Integrated technology has been in the fabric of Ephesus Junior Academy learning environment since the very beginning. Next slide. Our strategies for success are to increase the volume of participation from community and parents within and outside the school. We respect the time of parents and thank them for sharing. We build the relationship with parents of children before they enter school age. We create an institutional structure for parent involvement and identify and support learning environments beyond the school. Next slide, please. Our vision statement is Ephesus Junior Academy wishes to maintain a world-class institution that is safe, creative, financially strong, and technology advanced. We develop Christ-focused, service-centered, academically advanced students who perform at the 80th percentile of higher in all subject areas. Next slide. Every child at Ephesus Junior Academy will receive affordable, God-centered education in a results-oriented environment that is safe and nurturing. It is aligned with Adventist and national standards and is the result of a team effort. Next slide. And finally, our belief statement is Christ is the foundation and the Bible is the cornerstone of exemplary education. Thank you.
Committee members, do you all have any questions for Robin or Harvey?
I'm not sure if I missed it in the application or otherwise, but when did you move to the Cleveland Avenue location?
In 1988, we moved on that lot.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your presentation as well.
Thank you.
All right, not hearing other questions, committee members, if you would let me know when you're done scoring, we will move on to Reynolda Park. Thank you very much, Robin and Harvey, for your presentation and being here tonight. And Brian, if you could unmute Janie Wilson, please.
Thank you. Tell me when to start.
I will.
Thank you.
You bet.
I'm done.
Me as well.
I'm good.
All right. Our next city application is for Reynolda Park, and tonight we have Janie Wilson on the call. The proposed marker would be located at the Kent Road Triangle just off of Reynolda Road, and the photo that you see there is a photo of the area where the marker would be installed. Now we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Staff's been great to work with, and good evening, everyone. My name is Janie Wilson, and I live on East Kent Road in Reynolda Park, and I'd like to tell you now why we would like this historic marker. Next, please. Our proposed wording is Reynolda Park, Winston-Salem's first suburban development, was created by Catherine Smith Reynolds in the 1920s on a 65-acre tract partitioned from Reynolda Estate. The innovative park-like setting was designed by landscape architect Thomas Warren Sears and attracted noted architects, including Charles Barton Keene and Luther Lashmet. In working on this presentation, we realized that there were more to our story than that should be told. For that reason, we have changed the proposed wording for our marker to recognize the architects who shaped the character of our neighborhood. Next, please. As Heather said, our location is on a piece of land just inside Reynolda Park off of Reynolda Road. Winston-Salem has many diverse neighborhoods and distinctive neighborhoods, including Ardmore, West End, Bowen Park, Columbia Heights, Happy Hill, Old Salem, Washington Park. And I'm sure that many of you could pinpoint one or more of these neighborhoods on a map. But Reynolda Park, not so much. Even though it is recognized in the Northwest Winston-Salem Area Plan as a community to be preserved, it is best known as a cut-through from Stratford Road to Coliseum Drive instead of as a historic asset. The marker would go at that entrance. Next, please. So who's who in Reynolda Park? We all know Catherine Reynolds was the wife of R.J. Reynolds, and she was a philanthropist, but she was also a major force in developing the suburbs of Winston-Salem. When family and friends expressed interest in country living, Catherine became a real estate developer, calling once again on Thomas Sears and other architects to bring her plans to life. Next, please. Thomas Sears was the noted landscape architect who was Harvard educated and worked for the Olmsted firm as well as working with Charles Barton King. And then they designed Reynolda Gardens, Reynolda Park and Gardens, and the gardens of many prominent Winston-Salem residences. The archives of this great architect are in the Smithsonian Museum. Next, please. Charles Barton King is known as the Philadelphia architect, known for his suburban houses and country estates. Luther Lashmitt worked in Winston-Salem with the firm of Northrop and O'Brien. King was the most prolific architect for Reynolda Park and has 6 houses designed in this area. Luther Lashmitt was known for his national acclaim for his design of Grayland, and he also designed a house in Reynolda Park. Next, please. This is the Dyer House, designed by the New York architectural firm of Mayer, Murray, and Phillips in 1930. They also designed Centenary United Methodist Church. The house is built in a cut Romanesque revival style. It is on the National Register of Historic Places and will be closest to the proposed location of our historic marker. Next, please. The Galloway Motzinger House was designed by Luther Lashmitt in 1929 in the Georgian revival style. Next, please. Charles Barton King did this colonial revival for R.J. Reynolds' niece and nephew in 1923. Next, please. The Owen Moon Jr. House was built in 1926 in the Cotswold cottage style. Philadelphia architects Walter Karcher and Livingston Smith designed the home, and Sears designed the gardens. Next, please. As our summary, we hope that we have presented to you that this is a lesser-known historic site. It is connected to the underrepresented historical narrative about Catherine Smith Reynolds and her role in developing not only Reynolda House Farm and Gardens, but also the first suburban development in Winston-Salem. The historic landscape is designed by Thomas Warren Sears. It involves multiple other people of historic significance, including Charles Barton King and Luther Lashmitt. The marker will have an impact on the community by reunifying Reynolda Park with the Reynolda Historic District and identifying it as a historic asset instead of as a shortcut to Coliseum Drive. This neighborhood has already been identified for preservation by the Northwest Area Plan. So we hope we have demonstrated the criteria you are looking for, and we hope you will help us reunite Reynolda Park with the rest of Reynolda by way of this historic marker. I thank you very much for your consideration and for your service to our community. And please let me know if you have any questions.
I think Janie said it. Committee members, do you all have any questions for her about Reynolda Park?
I have no question, but thank you for the summary. That
Yeah,
helps us.
You're welcome.
Does the neighborhood have any interest in going ahead and pursuing listing on the National Register of Historic Places?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. There's the Motzinger Galloway House is somewhere in that, in the scheme of things for that house.
Yeah.
But I have not had interest further than that from anybody else.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But there is a book being done by Peggy Smith about some of the older homes in town. You, Leanne, probably would know about that. I bet she's included you in a lot of that. And it will include a lot of information about a number of the houses in this neighborhood. And it's scheduled for publication hopefully sometime next year.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, committee, if you'll let me know when you're done, we will move to our last application for a city marker.
Yep, I'm done with mine.
I'm done also.
I'm done.
All right, then our last application, thank you very much, Janie, for your presentation and attending tonight. Our last application for a City of Winston-Salem marker is for the Winston-Salem Rescue Squad, and the applicant is Jeff Hinshaw. The marker would be located where the number 6 is on map on North Liberty Street. And they have prepared a really wonderful YouTube video, which I am going to play for y'all. And then he is on the call to share any other information or answer questions.
In 1936, Roy Kane arrived in Winston-Salem for a job in the textile industry, having just departed Roanoke, Virginia. While there, he was a member of the group that was known as the Roanoke Life-Saving Crew, the first volunteer rescue squad in the United States. The rescue squad concept was the brainchild of Roanoke businessman Julian Stanley Wise. In 1909, Wise was walking along the banks of the Roanoke River in Roanoke, Virginia, when he witnessed two men capsize a canoe in deep, rough water. Though many onlookers saw the accident, none of them had the equipment or the training to offer much help, and both men drowned. Wise later said, "I vowed that I never again would watch a man die when he could have been saved if only those around him knew how." That incident stayed with Julian, and on May 28, 1928, Julian and 9 co-workers at the Norfolk and Western Railway began their first volunteer rescue squad. When Kane arrived in Forsyth County, there was no such agency in existence in the county or even the state. Seeking the support of Thurman Chatham, a local businessman and civic leader, they together became the core of the beginning of the new agency, the Winston-Salem Rescue Squad. The agency was established in 1937 and began training and raising funds for equipment. Starting with a small group of 15 to 20 men, the agency responded to emergencies such as traffic accidents and drownings in lakes and rivers. During the 1940s, the squad maintained a stockpile of iron lungs for the treatment of polio and even assisted in moving the devices to different hospitals and polio camps all across northwestern North Carolina. Prior to the creation of home health agencies, the squad maintained a stockpile of durable medical equipment such as oxygen tanks, crutches, wheelchairs, and hospital beds for those needing home care. Along with funeral homes, the squad also provided ambulance transportation to the sick and injured, long before the creation of the Forsyth County Ambulance Service in 1968. The squad found its largest and ultimately final home in 1968 when it opened the state-of-the-art station on North Liberty Street, right beside the newly constructed Winston-Salem Fire Station 3. As the 1970s continued, the squad was instrumental in training Forsyth County volunteer fire departments in the art of rescue services, as they worked together to provide high-quality service to the citizens of the county. One of the most important roles for the squad was support of crash fire rescue services at Smith Reynolds Airport. The rescue squad was a common sight at football games, rodeos, and the Dixie Classic Fair, providing medical coverage to the attendees in case of emergencies. Over the years, the rescue squad provided not only basic rescue services, but was the second squad in the state recognized as a heavy rescue provider by the State Rescue Association in the late 1990s. Services were expanded to include collapse and cave-in events, water and dive rescue events, and the agency was the first in the state to have a dedicated animal rescue unit. The squad also won the State Rescue Association Heavy Rescue Competition twice in the 1990s. The story of the agency is only as remarkable as the people who formed the squad. In the mid-1990s, over 3/4 of the membership roster had college degrees. They answered calls at a moment's notice and spent countless hours staffing the station and training to improve their skills, all done without receiving any pay for their time. As the community grew, the number of volunteers declined along with the expansion of services from the city and county, so the rescue squad entered into an agreement to merge with Forsyth County EMS in 2009. This arrangement allowed the members to continue to serve and the equipment assets to be utilized, but in a smaller role. This merger continued until 2013 when the EMS divested itself from rescue services, turning their services over to the Winston-Salem Fire Department and the fire volunteer programs in Forsyth County. And the remaining membership and equipment was transferred to Mineral Springs Volunteer Fire Department. The heavy rescue unit was repainted, but door plaques and decals were added, giving credit to where the apparatus came from and to the members who served the community over 70 years. Eventually, every county in North Carolina had some form of rescue squad. The citizens of the state are indebted to Roy Kane and the Winston-Salem Rescue Squad for the foresight to form such an agency and to become the leader in emergency and rescue care. For such vision and devotion to community well-being, it's appropriate that the Forsyth County Historical Resources Commission honor the state's first and oldest rescue squad with a marker commemorating the Winston-Salem Rescue Squad.
All right. Mr. Hinshaw or Jeff, did you have other information that you wanted to share?
First of all, I'd like to thank Katie Gore for helping us make that video. The word has gotten out for those of us who were members of that agency for many years that we're very excited to be able to make this application to the Historic Resources Commission. One thing that you'll notice in the packet, the current station, which has now been taken back over by the city, will be raised next year, so all evidence of where the rescue squad was will be gone. So this marker holds dear to many people, not only in the fire service, the rescue service, but many people in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. Again, the thing that I'll state is, just like in the video, there was nothing like this in the state until Mr. Kane came from Virginia. And the ability of this organization to have such an impact statewide, where every county had such an organization, just tells the far-reaching impact of what that one man and that vision could do.
Thank you. Committee members, do you all have any questions?
Oh, that was a great presentation. I loved it.
Thank you very much.
I had no idea.
Me
about the history. I mean, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it was great. Great information.
Yes.
And I'll say this, thank you for those comments. One of those things is most people, the majority of people in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County truly think the fire department did it all. And the organization actually predated the Forsyth County Fire Department, most volunteer fire departments, and was 40 years before the county ambulance service was even formed.
That's
amazing, the reach that they had. And again, just like you members of the committee, this has been an eye-opening experience about something that most of you probably didn't know, and that's no fault of your own. It was just a daily operation where these folks volunteered and went above and beyond to give of their time to help their fellow man.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and the video was very, very well done. Katie did a great job.
Yes, she did.
I agree. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
All right, if you all will let me know when you're done scoring, then I will give you some information about the application we have for a marker in Clemens.
Heather, if it's okay, I'm going to adjourn because I have that Boy Scout meeting.
Yes, please. Yes, I think you are set to go. Thank you for being on the call.
Great. Thank you so much, folks.
I'm done with mine.
I'm done also.
I'm done.
All right. So our last application tonight is for a marker in the town of Clemens. This marker would be funded half by Bobby Ogburn, who recently sold the property, a quarter by the Village of Clemens, and I think a quarter by the Clemens Historical Society. So we're not funding it primarily. Your role is just to determine that whether or not the property is eligible for a marker. So it is for the Peter Clemens house. It would be located where the 7 is circled on the map, and that's a photograph of the Peter Clemens house in about 1905. The deed on the left is an 1801 deed when Peter Clemens bought his first piece of property in this area from Thomas Butler. There were many successive property purchases, and the house is believed to have been built around 1805. It remained in the Clemens family ownership for some time, and of course, that is who Clemens is named after, Peter Clemens. And his son, Edwin, who ran the stagecoach line, did live in the house for a period of time, and it was a stagecoach stop as well. The house was initially smaller, and it was expanded in the mid-19th century. So when we get to the interiors, you'll see that there are some sort of late Georgian, early federal elements, and then some Greek revival elements. The Fries family subsequently bought the property from the Clemens family, and then in 1904, J.P. Sprinkle bought the property. So the plat that you see on the left from 1917 dates to when the property was owned by the Sprinkles. These are some photos that I believe Michelle took when we took a tour of the house, oh gosh, maybe a year and a half ago now. So down in the basement, you can see that the floor joists are half logs that still have the bark on them. And if you look at the two different fireplaces, you can really see the difference in style, with the one on the left having the metopes and the really sort of Greek revival details, where the one on the right is a much more sort of simple federal, maybe even a little Adamesque, I don't know, delicate kind of style. And then you can see some of the faux painting on the interior and some of the door details. These are some historic photos. The Clemens School commencement was held on the the porch of the house in 1901, and then a postcard of the house when it was owned by the Sprinkle family was issued. And that is J.P. Sprinkle in the suit on the left. And then his daughter, Fanny Sprinkle Ogburn, inherited the house, and she and her husband, Henry Moyer Ogburn, owned the house. They passed it to their son, James Sprinkle Ogburn, and his son, Bobby Ogburn, owned the house until it was sold earlier this year. The Ogburns were in Clemens, owned the house for over 100 years, or about 100 years, were in Clemens for a long period of time, ran stores, and were prominent members of the community. So Mr. Ogburn is very hopeful that you all will determine that the property qualifies for a historic marker. And I'm happy to answer questions if y'all have any, if I can. Whoop.
Heather, do we fill out the entire sheet or just the criteria?
We don't really need the score, because if you determine it qualifies, then it will be awarded a marker. So you can just do the required criteria at the top.
Okay, great. Then I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Also,
good question, Khaki.
Yes. All right, so applicants, I can see some of y'all are still on the call, so I will just remind you, our committee members will be sending all of their scores to staff, and then we will compile those tomorrow morning, and we will send an email to you all. In particular, I'm sure those of you who are in Winston-Salem that have applied will be interested, because we will only be able to award 2 markers. Please remember, if you are not selected for a marker this year, that marker awards in the city of Winston-Salem have become very, very competitive, and it is not uncommon for you to need to apply for several years in a row before a marker is awarded. So thank you all for your time tonight, for making such great presentations to our committee. And do any of the committee members have any last words or any other questions before Alana adjourns us?
No, this is always my favorite time of the year to hear these presentations, because I learned so much. So I really appreciate all of our guests giving such wonderful presentations.
Yeah, everyone did a lovely job presenting their properties, and we thank you for that. A lot of thought and attention has gone into it, so thank you.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we all learned something from every single one of those presentations, so thank you all so much for that.
and I agree with everyone else. Thank you. All very well done.
And thank you for bearing with us, everybody, staff and committee members. Brian, thank you so much for organizing this for us, and Larry for streaming it for us on the city's webpage. This was a really great way to get this done during COVID. So thanks for being flexible.
Yeah, worked out great.
All right. If that's all, without further ado, we will be adjourned.
All right.
Happy holidays, everybody.
All right. Thank y'all. We'll be in touch tomorrow.
Thank you.